Here's what we know based on a police report obtained by 2 on Your Side. Tuesday night around 9 p.m., Buffalo police responded to a suspicious vehicle that was left abandoned in Niagara Square. This is video from around 2 a.m. Wednesday morning. Officers noticed a damaged 2022 Tesla T3 that suggests the vehicle was involved in some sort of property damage-only crash. Upon searching the vehicle, police discovered a black bag in the front trunk. In that bag, a Glock 43 loaded with a full magazine and a round in the chamber. Other items were discovered, including medication, a cell phone, walkie-talkie, badge, and more. Police sources told 2 on Your Side Wednesday that the items belonged to former Erie County Narcotics Chief DJ Granville. Sources also say that Granville was not driving the vehicle, nor was he at the scene when the vehicle was abandoned. Wednesday night, Granville was formally charged with first-degree failure to safely store firearms, a misdemeanor. According to legal expert Barry Covert, someone guilty of that charge could face
up to a year incarceration and then fines as well, and up to 3 years of probation are the potential penalties. But obviously they have to prove that whoever was in control of the pistol was the one who left it there unsecured. And it doesn't seem to be clear it was him or somebody else. And obviously that charges would have to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, and the presumption of innocence would attach to him or whoever was in control of the pistol.
Aside from the charges, there could be additional consequences for Granville.
Mr. Granville could lose his pistol permit even if he was not the one who left the pistol in the vehicle there, because that he could have been deemed to have recklessly allowed someone else to have control of the pistol, and then someone else left the pistol there in an unsecured condition. So you don't have to be convicted of a crime in order to lose your pistol permit. Just simple allegations of misconduct involving a weapon are sufficient to possibly cause a hearing, a temporary suspension, and a hearing to be called to determine whether you should lose your pistol permit or not.
The Tesla in question is registered to Buffalo Biodiesel. The company tells 2 on Your Side in part, quote, "This vehicle was driven by an employee who was off duty. We can confirm that DJ Granville was not the operator or passenger of the vehicle at the time this incident occurred. The matter is currently under investigation internally, while also providing full cooperation with the Buffalo Police Department." Buffalo Biodiesel recently hired Granville's company to, quote, "conduct internal and external investigations and assistance in prosecutions of criminal acts against the company that typically involve organized crime." According to the police report, right now, Buffalo police do not know who the driver of the Tesla is, nor has it been determined officially how Granville's bag containing a handgun was in the abandoned vehicle.
I became the first to file because I'm from Buffalo. And I know if you wait for these kinds of things to happen around you, you snooze, you lose.
Longtime Trump ally Michael Caputo is seeking $2.7 million from a nearly $2 billion fund designed to compensate Americans who claim they were unfairly targeted by the federal government.
Our family's probably one of 1,000 or more that was completely destroyed by the Russiagate hoax.
Caputo was the spokesperson for the Department of Health and Human Services during Trump's first term. Here's why he wants to get paid.
And I moved to Florida to escape all the harassment as I was recovering from cancer. And my daughters are being chased down the street in East Aurora by crazy Democrats. And we moved here, and right around the time we moved here, they started another federal criminal investigation because I wrote a book and did a movie about the Biden corruption in Ukraine. That continued for 5 years. My family had FBI surveillance against us for 9 years. Somebody's going to pay for that.
Obviously, American people's money that's going to be paying for this.
I'm seeking $2.7 million for FBI and DOJ harassment from 2016 until 2025.
Caputo isn't ruling out further litigation. There is some backlash about the fund from Democrats and Republicans.
It's totally outrageous, and it's absolutely despicable.
I have almost zero confidence in the DOJ right now. And so let's go back and try and regain some of that confidence before we talk about any money.
Expect litigation.
I dare them to do it because I know the attorneys that put this together. And Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche does not mess around.
This fund could allow pardoned January 6 defendants and others alleging political persecution to seek taxpayer funds. On Your Side, Claudine Ewing, Channel 2 News.
Most of the discussion today was on the progress of selecting a jury for the upcoming trial of Peyton Gendron, now tentatively scheduled for October. In court today, Judge Lawrence Villardo announced that based on surveys sent out in March, more than 1,200 Western New Yorkers have now qualified as potential jurors for the trial. They will begin coming to court to fill out additional questionnaires next month. Those whose answers are satisfactory will be brought back in for questioning by lawyers starting in late August. At the same time, there was much discussion about the language of the surveys, the specific words the judge will use in his remarks to potential jurors, even how Gendron will always be referred to by first and last name.
Now, I understand it's part of a long process, but yes, it is frustrating.
Former Buffalo Fire Commissioner Garnell Whitfield's mother was one of the victims in the mass shooting.
The details and the breadth and the depth of this process is such that, it's not something that my mother was afforded. You know what I'm saying? It's not something that the victims were afforded.
Meanwhile, the judge recently denied 10 separate motions filed by lawyers for Gendron seeking the suppression of evidence seized from Gendron's electronic devices, social media accounts, and the search of his home the day after the shooting. On your side in downtown Buffalo, Dave McKinley, Channel 2 News.
Hello, Scott. This is being investigated as domestic violence. The Erie County District Attorney's Office confirming that with us this afternoon. 36-year-old Nicholas Malvasso faces second-degree murder charges. He's accused of murdering his wife, 51-year-old Tiffany Malvasso. Police were called out to this home on Cleveland Drive in the town of Tonawanda just before 3 Saturday morning when they got a 911 call and found Tiffany's body. They say she had suffered blunt force trauma and arrested her husband, Nicholas, who's being held in the Erie County Holding Center without bail after his arraignment Saturday afternoon. Malvasso is scheduled to be back in court Thursday. The Family Justice Center helps domestic violence survivors with support and resources, and while the organization can't comment on this specific case, its community outreach manager wants people to know help is available.
Our team is there for all victims, no matter what type of abuse they're experiencing. And obviously, sometimes people don't realize that someone can be experiencing a lot of different types of abuse that ultimately end in a homicide. That relationship may never even have been violent up until the point of death. So it's very important that people do reach out and get help and know that they can get full, free, confidential services and support from our team. And it's all we do every day, day in and day out.
I have links to the Family Justice Center's resources with my story online. There is still a lot of information we don't know about this murder case. Police and the DA's office declined our requests for interviews, but if you have any information, Town of Tonawanda Police ask you to give them a call. Live and on your side in the town of Tonawanda, Kelly Dudzik, Channel 2 News.
Over 400 acres of these now quiet farm fields in the town of Cambria and partially in the town of Pendleton will eventually be transformed into a solar panel energy project. It's the plan from the nationwide developer Cypress Creek Renewables to build the Bear Ridge installation to power up to 20,000 single-family homes. And as this video shot in Genesee County from our sister NBC station in Rochester shows, a similar large-scale installation there, this type of construction in Cambria, set to begin next month. The Cambria town supervisor declined a recorded interview, saying he wanted to carefully negotiate a host community agreement and referred us to the town attorney, who did not return our call. But Supervisor Matthew Foe did confirm published accounts of a lengthy 7-year court battle against the project and developer, and that there was pressure from the State Office of Renewable Energy Siting and Electricity Transmission, or ORIS, which was set up to streamline permitting and approvals for such projects under the state's climate action law. It was a similar story to what the Rochester Reporter heard from the Genesee County manager about the solar projects in that county.
They can set aside any local laws, local moratoriums, local zoning. They can set it aside and put a site where they want to put it. And that's what's happened here.
As Channel 2's Nate Benson reported last year, town of Somerset officials in Niagara County sought changes in the partial farmland location of a solar project in that community, but the state ORIS office, as a part of the State Department of Public Service covering utilities, also required the original development plan. An official with that ORIS office told WHEC this about the Genesee County solar project concern.
We look at all of the comments, all of the feedback, all of the impacts that may be associated with the generation resource. And it's our job, again, via statute and the laws that we're carrying out, to make sure that we strike the best balance that we can.
The state of New York has lost 20,000 volunteer firefighters over the last 2 decades, and the people left are being asked to do more with less. See, on top of fire expertise, State Senator George Borrello says many volunteers must also field calls involving emergency services like heart attacks and car accidents. Those calls require more training and faster response times. And for a state that relies so heavily on those volunteers, the demand is becoming overwhelming.
According to FASNY, the group that represents volunteers across New York State, volunteer firefighters save New York taxpayers about $4 billion with a B, $4 billion a year, versus having to pay for professional first responders. And most people in New York State and most communities are protected by volunteers.
The state assembly passed a bill this week that would quadruple the annual tax credit for volunteer firefighters and ambulance workers, from $200 to $800 for individuals and from $400 to $1,600 for married joint filers.
It's not enough money to change someone's mind who doesn't want to volunteer, but it might be the extra push and the incentive. And on top of that, it's also a way of saying thank you.
Borrello says the tax credit alone won't solve the problem, but for now, he says the bill is the least they can do to help.
Chances are you have to wait a long time for a class to be held. It's probably held a long way from where you live. You have to make your own accommodations, and arrangements to get there. So we should be doing these classes more frequently. We should be doing, more online, virtual trainings. We should make it easier for people who want to volunteer their time to become certified.
Minority and women-owned businesses are being celebrated in Orchard Park as the new Highmark Stadium construction site exceeded expectations when it comes to the community benefits agreement.
More than $490 million were dispersed to participating minority and women-owned contractors and businesses. The governor's office says this represents the largest participation by MWBE firms for any public-private project in Western New York's history. A sales representative for Buffalo Concrete, a women-owned company, says it helps supply the stadium with materials. She says she's encouraged by women's participation in this project and others across Western New York.
When I first started construction and selling on outside sales, there wasn't a lot of women in the field, and it's grown, so it's really great. I like to see more women in the field, and it's just been a great opportunity. Long term, this will always be here. We're Bills fans, right? And it's great to be a part of building this.
A lot of times, companies will not hire minority-owned businesses. So when you do that, it helps the people in the community get jobs. If you don't bring that economic development back to small firms.
Contractors say working here at the new Highmark Stadium is an incredible opportunity that will allow them to work on other projects here in Western New York. On your side in Orchard Park, Chelsea Swift, Channel 2 News.
SUNY Fredonia's president says these are painful but necessary changes in order to make this institution relevant into the future.
I wouldn't have gone through this if I didn't believe that this is the right decision for the institution.
An institution which, like many others, is having to change with the times and offer degrees in fields which are more in demand now than ones which once were, but which over the years have been attracting fewer participants and now involve less than 5% of Fredonia's 3,100 enrolled students.
Sometimes you have to let go of certain things in order for you to take advantage of new opportunities, to position us for the future where we are more financially sustainable and also we are more relevant to what the state needs, what the economy needs, what students and parents are looking for, right?
There will be some job losses, although Collison insisted it's too early to say how many.
I acknowledge that separating is hard. Separation is always hard. But if we hang on to these things that are no longer working for us, then what will happen is we risk even undermining the university, that in the future that we will become even weaker in the process.
It is important to note that any of the students currently enrolled in those degree programs that are going to be eliminated are going to be allowed to finish and graduate with those degrees. On your side in Fredonia, Dave McKinley, Channel 2 News.
Hard decisions lie ahead for 5 school districts in Western New York.
This year, on a statewide level, we saw about a 96% passage rate for all of the school budgets.
Part of that statewide 4% unable to pass their budgets include Lindenville, Randolph, West Valley, Cuba Rushford, and Grand Island, the only school district in Erie County with a rejected spending plan.
We'll probably see a number of these districts come back out for a revote in June.
David Albert is with the New York State School Boards Association. He says that school leaders now face a few options.
One option is they can go out for a revote in June. There is a statewide revote day, and they can put the same budget up, or they can make modifications, or they can go to a contingency budget.
Meaning the school district can only spend money on essential operations like teachers, transportation, and utilities.
We were disappointed.
Brian Graham, superintendent of Grand Island Schools, will have to take another look at his proposed $81.6 million budget proposal, which also included a 2.7% tax levy.
Our costs are going up, just like your costs are going up at your home and all throughout the community. And, we have contractual obligations, of course.
A burden also being felt by the Randolph Central School District, which proposed a 19% overall spending increase and 40% tax levy increase.
This is just a correction to make our tax rates more sustainable. And even after that correction, we will still be one of the lowest tax districts in all of Western New York.
Both superintendents say they are weary about voter misinformation.
We did not see a large turnout of parents and people who are directly involved in the school. What we saw more was people who are not involved in our school community turning out to vote.
It's very, very important to, for the district to do its very best to communicate while also making sure that we try our very best to combat misunderstandings or miscommunications.
And with New York State's budget still not finalized, many school districts are waiting for a clear picture of how much state aid they'll be receiving. On your side, Alyssa Clauset, Channel 2 News.
Prosecutors left court today after a tongue-lashing from the judge, the likes of which stunned even Trotter's attorney.
I have never seen that kind of a rebuke to the government from a judge in my practice.
During their investigation of Gerace for drug and sex trafficking, Trotter, a decorated officer, was secretly recorded by FBI agents during a meeting at a Panera Bread in Williamsville, telling them he hadn't been in contact with Gerace for several years, even though Gerace's phone revealed numerous text messages and calls between the two after Trotter said they'd last spoken. Trotter was charged with a felony, lying to the FBI.
The government chose to prosecute this because they spazzed when they were going to think that he might be a witness for Peter Gerace and that might undermine their case.
During his trial, his lawyer said any misstatements were due to his client's faulty memory, not any purposeful deceit. When a jury could not decide the case, it ended in a mistrial, after which Judge Lawrence Villardo dismissed 2 charges and recommended prosecutors drop the case. They continued to pursue it, but as a second trial was about to start, they offered Trotter a plea to a misdemeanor of impeding a federal agent, which he took back in February. At today's sentencing, the judge said, "I made known my feelings about this case, but I had to stay in my lane and let a jury try and resolve it. I would have thought with a hung jury the government would have dropped its misguided prosecution, but the government doubled down. Well, now it is in my lane, and I can do something about it now." The sentence: no jail, no supervised release, no probation, and no fine before the judge told him, "I'm sorry you had to go through this." Fellow and former Amherst police who packed the courtroom applauded when the judge was finished.
I don't know if you're familiar with the prosecution in Washington where the guy got prosecuted for throwing a submarine sandwich at an ICE agent. Well, this is the second stupidest prosecution ever in federal court.
Trotter has already been recommended for reinstatement by Amherst Police Chief Scott Chamberlain. In fact, Chamberlain was one of the supporters who packed the gallery in the courtroom. The Amherst Town Board will have the final say. On your side in downtown Buffalo, Dave McKinley, Channel 2 News.
Hey, Scott, I'm in a warmer setting than I have been for weeks over there covering the phenomenal Sabres playoff run, a run, as you mentioned, we will have more of coming up in sports. But now we're starting to shift gears to the Bills. This is the first week of organized team activities. They remain voluntary, though the attendance here nearly 100%. You'll see guys come in and out over the next few weeks, but nothing really to get all worried about here. Our eyes immediately, to no surprise, go to Josh Allen. Joe Brady, his first time we've seen him with the entire Bills team collectively here out on the practice field. You're not going to learn a lot. Is DJ Moore instantly clicking with Josh Allen? Is Bradley Chubb going to be a sack machine unlike we've seen from edge rushers in recent history for the Bills? It's more of just getting reacclimated, and Josh Allen in particular learning his new teammates.
The more plays under fire with, I wouldn't consider this live bullets, but guys are flying around and you got to maneuver a pocket. You have to trust that guys are going to be in the right spots, and if they're not, that's why we're doing this, is to make those mistakes and talk about them and learn from them. So obviously when we get to the season, we don't have those mistakes in game time situations.
Rest of this week, I think there's one more OTA, then they go for a couple more weeks. Mandatory minicamp is in the middle of June. Bills training camp up in Rochester. It's just going to keep piling on quickly, is at the end of July. But now live from One Bills Drive, John Scott, Channel 2 Sports. Here's the number one thing you need to know. Lindy Ruff going through his number one assistant coach to get clearance to continue coaching. That assistant coach is none other than his wife. She said, Lindy has this sickness. He just can't help himself. The 66-year-old must continue to be this team's head coach. So once he gets that green light, I think a lot of us can relate. Once you get it on the home front, you're good to go and go ahead with what maybe in his heart still truly remains. We understand what Ruff was able to accomplish this season. The turnaround from being in last place in the Eastern Conference in early December to ultimately winning the division. 50 games, the winningest head coach in this organization's history, going to be here for 2 more years. Here's Ruff's reaction as well as General Manager Jarmo Kekalainen.
Really excited about what our group did this year. The energy that our fans brought, the energy in the city, where we got to in the second half of the year, excited me.
Extending Lindy, a no-brainer. He's done a great job with his staff. We talked about this probably I think the first time we talked about it was in LA on that trip, and then we continued the talks, and he wanted to focus on playoffs, but once we got to it at the end, it was pretty quick and straightforward talk, and I think we both wanted the same thing.
Of course, Ruff, a Jack Adams finalist for NHL Coach of the Year, and let's be honest, he should probably win it. 950 career wins for Ruff if the Sabres do what they did this season, next season. For now, live from KeyBank Center, John Scott, Channel 2 Sports.